Good morning. Good start. I have to clear my throat. It's October 27th. I deleted them, but this is actually the second start. I did about 10 seconds of this and then realized I had to take out the recycling. So I think one person had already seen it on YouTube, but if you're that one person, I'm here to stay. It's just about freezing. It's about 1 degree, but it's supposed to go up to 12 today and the sun's out, so I suspect I'll warm up quickly as I walk. I do have my jacket on, but I didn't zip it up. It's always hard to judge these things. Also, I was a little surprised when I was taking out the recycling. It rained yesterday, of course, and everything's covered with ice out back of the house. I think the recycling bin had enough ice on it that I had to give it a good tug to break the ice and open it up. So definitely frosted last night. And I suspect the cars over there will take some scraping, potentially. It's hard to be sure. When it's close to freezing, it's hard to know what will freeze and what won't. So the plan today is to walk around the South Wascana Center, down by the Mckenzie Art Gallery, Wascana Rehab. I've been down there a few times, but it's been quite a while, so that's where we're headed. Just a week away from the release of Shapers of Worlds Volume 2, my Kickstarted anthology featuring science fiction and fantasy by authors who were guests on my podcast, The World Shapers, theworldshapers.com, during its second year. So very excited about that. Still tons of little tasks to do around that. And I'm also working to relaunch and enhance some of the other books I have out there. Better keywords, might change the cover art on one, all that kind of stuff. So lots of little publishing things. And the only question is, what do I write next? And my plan has been to write book 4 of World Shapers. My series, it's 3 books came out from Daw Books, but they didn't want to take the 4th one. But I'm kind of hemming and hawing about that. Wondering if perhaps I'd be better served focusing on something brand new. I hate leaving that series unfinished, though. So I just don't know that it has enough fans to carry over to a 4th book, but still, I suppose I should write it. It's all planned out. I think I can finish the whole series in 5 books. if I write the 4th book with that in mind, I can bring everything to a climax in book 5, and then it'll be done. The caveat here is that there is somebody in Hollywood who is, or not in Hollywood, but with connections in Hollywood, who's been pitching it and is quite keen on it as a TV series, which of course I'm very keen on it as a TV series too. But so far, nothing has come of that. If it did, then, I'd write as many World Shapers books as I could, because then it would have fans. Such is the life of the freelance writer. Try to decide what to do next. Anyway, my focus right now is getting that anthology out, and then I'm going to relaunch my Shards of Excalibur book soon. Try it if they can maybe pick up the fans that I've always thought they should have. They're good for a relaunch in our indie publishing world. It's not really self-publishing because it's my press, but I do publish other things, so I don't know how that works. Call it self-publishing if you wish. But they weren't originally self-published. They were published by Kato Books. And the reason I have them now is that Kato Books went out of business. So most of the books I published through Shadowpaw are actually books that were traditionally published of mine that I'm now trying to keep in print or keep available. I've only published two that had never been published before. Assignment Avalon, which was a very early novel of mine, so I published it as by Eddie Willett. I was in my early 20s, that's what people called me. It's a good way to know if people knew me from Weyburn, because they're more likely to call me Eddie if I meet them, re-meet them. And then Star Song, which is the new young adult novel I just put out not too long ago. That one's brand new. But really what I've been doing is bringing back books that were previously published by traditional publishers. So for the most part, although I have some coming up that'll be ones that have never had a traditional publisher. So I still have my two early young adult fantasies, Soul Worm and The Dark Unicorn, to bring out. They were published by a tiny and not very good publisher originally. But they were both award nominees and certainly got me some attention at the time. So they were, I don't mind too much. It was a bad publisher and a bad contract, but I should have known better. Okay, so we're not walking around the lake, we're just starting that way because it's more fun to walk down here than up by the creek. Up by the creek, over the bridge is right there, Wascana Bridge. This is Wascana Center. That's Albert Street Bridge. We'll be walking around the lake again on Friday. Now that looks a little muddy, so I think I will follow the path a little bit. It's a little bit on my way, but we'll follow it around till I can stay on pavement to head up that way. Or down that way, because it's south. As you can tell, because over there where that bright thing in the sky is, that would be east. I got boxes of books yesterday. I got 2 boxes of the final version of the anthology and a box of the Kickstarter version. They came within 10 minutes of each other, which was kind of funny. One from Perlator and one from FedEx. Boy, that's bright. And I could already tell that I could do without my This is a new path. This has never been here before. But I've noticed. Am I imagining that? Or maybe I just walked further than I thought I did. I thought I'd never seen this path before, but maybe I had. I'm still not sure about that. Well, we'll risk this little bit of mud to get over here. Take a scenic tour by the washrooms. And of course, that's the legislative building there. You can see how white it is. There's still some frost on it in the shade. It's melting quickly though. Kind of as soon as the sun touches it. I was a little later this morning than I expected to be, or the sun would be even lower than it is. Stay on this side of the road because that's where the sidewalk is. I don't know what they're doing on the... It's all blocked off. I don't know why. There's this... There's the legislature. You can see the frost on this grass here. And the sidewalk's a little slippery too. That's the Saskatchewan War Memorial over there, the Provincial War Memorial. First and Second World Wars, Korea, Afghanistan. Here you can see how the frost appears in the sun and then disappears very shortly after the sun has hit it. You can see it in the on the pavement too. Frost here and there. You can see it glittering perhaps in the grass and on the disturbed dirt there. Nobody has said good morning yet. If you're there, say hi on Facebook or YouTube, so I'm not lonely. I have to watch my feet a little bit. I'm sure there are slippery spots along here. That's a fountain, but like all the fountains, it's not fountaining right now. I think we'll walk all the way down to the... Oh, and here's a good backside view of the Legislative Building. I think we'll walk all the way down to the Mckenzie Art Gallery is, and go down the front of it today, and then walk back along the backside of the buildings along that road. Albert Street is right over there on the other side of that buffer zone of trees. A lot of government buildings along here, as one would expect. Starting with this one coming up to our left. And the older ones, probably built in the 50s, is my guess. Yeah, see that's slippery there. It depends, there's different kinds of concrete along here depending on how recently the sidewalk was patched, and some of them are slipperier than others. From the little bit of frost that's still clinging on for another hour or so, it'll probably all be gone, or less. The provincial crest up there on the top. Now, this accessible entrance is new. Originally, there were just stairs here. The province of Saskatchewan, it says right there. It's the Walter Scott Building, named after the first premier of the province, and not the Scottish poet. Makes me wonder if the live stream didn't actually go through this time after I aborted the original one, since nobody has said hello yet, but probably people are just doing other things. I'd imagine when you could be watching me walk, that you might be working or something. I mean, where are your priorities? I am getting warm enough, I'm thinking the jacket was a mistake. Even though it's chilly, I would have been fine with just my sweater. Probably even take off the gloves here pretty soon. Another government office building. Coming up. Albert Street over there. Mistake. I'm already too warm and I've not even walked half the walk. Well, I've been in both of these government buildings. This one has, I think the environment department is up there, and I did some website work for them. Or was editing some scientific information for their website about, what was it? I don't really remember. Riparian habitats, maybe, as in riverside ones. So this is Lloyd Place, named after another premier. And then in front of us is the T.C. Douglas building, also named after a former premier. And among other things, it has the Mckenzie Art Gallery in it. Government offices, but I think of it primarily as the home of the Mckenzie Art Gallery. I've only once or twice been in the office side of it. Now often I walk that way, but I'm going to come back that way this time, and we'll walk around on the south side to start with. There's Albert Street again, right over there. I like this building. It's well designed for the landscape. This side, as you can see, has plants growing on those, I guess you'd call them balconies. So it gives a very prairie feel. Really well done. I don't know who the architect was. I should, but I don't. And since nobody's walking with me who will suddenly Google it for me, I guess I'll just go on not knowing. As far as I can tell, nobody's with me at all right now. Check in if you are. Just so I know. Otherwise, I'm talking to the people who are watching the recording, which is also fine. So here we go up. Again, you can see the plants that are built into the design. Not that they're at their best right now, being all dead because of frost. Takes me about 20 minutes to here from home. All right, now we're going to turn into the sun. So if you do say hi, I may not see it until I reach shade again, because the screen is blank from my point of view at the moment whenever I'm in the sun. But, this is the main entrance here. See the sign that says Art Gallery? Mckenzie Art Gallery. This has these nice skylights overhead. And the parking lot's down there. Tonight I have rehearsal for Guilty Pleasures, which is a program by the Lyric Singers, which are part of Regina Lyric Musical Theatre that I've been involved with for 3 decades, as it said when I got that National Sovereign's Medal for Volunteers a couple of weeks ago. That's what that was for, it's all my work with them. Sort of earworms, you know, songs that you love even though you think you shouldn't, or songs that stick with you. My solo is California Dreaming. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. That one. I'm not quite taking a walk on a winter's day, but I will be later. That's coming up at the Hungarian Club at the end of November. And if you're watching this, well, anywhere, you can go to reginalyric.com and get tickets for that concert. Anyway, we have rehearsal tonight. Everything has to be memorized, so I better get on that since we're only about a month away from the show. Okay, we'll go back over to stay on the sidewalk. Those stairs go up and over to the other side. Then the next building that will come up is the Wascana Rehab Center. Directly ahead of us. And all around the Mckenzie, there's this big swath of grass. And on the other side of that hill, it's kind of a bowl of grass, and various big outdoor things have been held there. The symphony used to do their summer concerts there, sort of to kick off the season. And who knows, things are different now when it gets back. Taking off my gloves, my hands are getting sweaty, along with the rest of me. It's unusual that nobody has said hello on a morning walk. There's the Lloyd building back there across the grass that we walked by. Now, to stay on the sidewalk, it's tempting to go straight ahead, but then you can't actually get a sidewalk path down to the front of the building, as I remember, right? So we'll go around the sidewalk this way. Try to avoid walking on the grass because it's quite damp this morning. There's the Mckenzie back there, or the T.C. Douglas building. My great story I always probably told every time I walk by the building now. Years ago I was singing here Wascana Rehab Center. And one of the songs I chose to sing was Don't Get Around Much Anymore, which it occurred to me afterwards was perhaps not the best thing to sing for a rehab center with people in wheelchairs or bedridden. Oh, the bedridden ones weren't in my... No, they really couldn't get around much anymore, and that maybe wasn't the best choice, but nobody seemed to mind. I just thought of it later. Miss the Saturday dance, could have gone, but what for? About you, don't get around much anymore. That one. So here's the main entrance to the Wascana Rehab Center. I'd walk up there, but people are unloading, so Saskatchewan Patient Transfer Services, so I presume some patient is being transferred. Seems like a safe bet. There's the main entrance. The tall building up there to the right is Roberts Plaza, which is an apartment building, or maybe condos. Not sure which. More likely condos, actually. Have been up there. I knew somebody that lived there for a while. I think we watched the fireworks in the park from up there once, which was cool. Now, up here, we'll get into this sort of park next to the arboreum. And take a stroll through it, and then turn the corner and head back. Always used to say that to my daughter, don't step in a poodle, it's a puddle. Dad jokes are the best jokes. So there's a little network of paths here. Oh, slippery. Ice and frost on the pavement there. I haven't seen anybody walking a dog this morning. That's highly unusual. But certainly not right now. I'd say there won't be any there now until spring melt. I think last year there might have been an ice pond in there, but well, I don't know. It was spring already when I was, or almost spring when I started walking, and snow had been melting. So that might have been why it had water in it back in March. Maybe it's always dry after the summer. Still nobody has said hi. All my fans have abandoned me. On the plus side, I've topped 170 subscribers to this channel. 40 or something when I started, so that's been entirely driven by these walks. At that rate, for 5 or 6 or 7 more years, I'll be able to monetize this thing. Which, you know, is not something I say lightly right now. These viruses are not exactly in anybody's good graces at the moment. But still, so over here's the, I don't know if they really call it the arboretum or not, but it's where the city grows trees. Rising in the distance there is the Mckenzie Art Center. This way will take us by a sculpture. The path, like there's cross paths, so there's about 3 different paths you can take through this stretch, but I'm taking the furthest one to maximize my walking distance. There's the Mckenzie Art Center over there. Don't get around much anymore is now running through my head because I made the mistake of singing a snatch of it. At my second guitar lesson yesterday, I now know 7 chords, I think. Or is it 8? Maybe it's 8. Oh, there's Colleen. Somebody is there. So here we are at Rap, which says, if you see, look at it, tension or comfort is the eye being constrained and controlled. Constrained and controlled. That's what I see, libertarian that I am. That's the government crushing people's spirit. There, that's what I see. I also see the Mckenzie Art Center still over there. Arboretum Park. That's the formal name up here. Up there is the path around the Wascana lake. You can see the lake shining blue there a little bit through the trees. Well, I can. It's pretty small on the image. But we won't go down there. We will go this way now. With the sun behind me. I would have been a little cool without my jacket, but probably more comfortable overall with the heat generated by walking. So I should remember that. Up to about anything over freezing, I can probably get by without my jacket, even if I might want to wear gloves. Once you go below freezing, probably want the jacket. And certainly there'll be more and more below freezing walks. Leaves are gone for the most part. Not a lot of color to look at here. Some stuff that hangs on green. These trees, especially after the rain and the wind. We had both a windy day and then a rainy day. And that tends to bring the leaves down in a hurry, whatever's left. Snow, even more so. We have had a snow, but it didn't stick very long. There was more in the forecast, but they seem to have removed it. Oh, what that round thing is with the... 2 of them. I don't know what they are. There's actually a hill in front of me. That looks like quite a large hill coming out from this direction. It's not. I must be going slightly downhill, and then it rises in front of me. Now, looks like... Morning.
Morning.
So there's the lake, and beyond that is downtown. Friday's walk around the lake, of course. We'll stick to the sidewalk. Yeah, look at that, giant hill. Practically a mountain by Regina standards. No, the one that's the mountain is Goose Hill, which was always landfill. And then when they dug out the lake a few years ago, they piled more on top of it, so it got bigger. I'll be up there again soon. You get a great view of the city from up there. I might do that this week because I haven't been to Douglas Park in weeks now. That's Wascana Rehab. I have walked down there before, but it's a dead end, so over here is the thing that always reminds me just how long I've been here, because I was here when that was built. I was here for the opening of it, and the first thing, it was supposed to be like a tourist thing with pictures of tourist stuff in it, and the first thing in there was Saskatchewan Science Centre, which was brand new, and I was here for that. But they took out the picture panels a long time ago, and now it's just a shelter. Not much of a shelter because it doesn't have any walls. But I was here when they opened that thing. Now we can go down here closer to the building, and the sidewalk will take us around. I'm pretty sure that was a dead end if I went the other way. I don't think that sidewalk connected to where I would have ended up. Anyway. I'm warm enough it actually feels good to be in the chilly shade. Watch out for ice. There's still some in the shade. Song, Don't Get Around to Much Anymore, is still running through my head. These are interesting, these sort of flying buttresses on a miniature scale. It's like some sort of court. Oh, there's somebody on YouTube. Hello, Imran. Hope I pronounced that right. Figures, there's always a car that comes along when you think you're walking safely down a deserted. Here's the path I want, over here. Which will take us back over to the T.C. Douglas building there, the government building, and home of the Mckenzie Art Gallery. This was the Wascana Rehab Center. Say goodbye to the Wascana Rehab Center. Goodbye. That's a lovely place over there that I walked by as I came. Another government office building. Here's the, most people call it the bowl. This big swath of grass. You see people playing in it sometimes. They've been laying a lot of new pipe or cable all over the place. You can see the scars in the grass there. Seems like everywhere I went, I've been seeing that around Wascana, and clear out to the Wascana Country Club on the edge of town. There was, or out by Saskatchewan Polytechnic, there were new furrows there. We were watching a show called Clarkson's Farm, hosted by Jeremy Clarkson in the UK, and he was laying pipe using something like that. It was quite cool. Just slices over the ground, lays down the PVC, and the ground basically closes up behind it because it's not a very thick cut. It's very cool. It's one of those shows about a guy who knows nothing about farming, decides to run a farm, his own farm. He owned the farm, but he never run it. And during the pandemic, he started running it. So he's discovered that farming isn't easy. Those of us with farmer relatives could have told him that. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime. And a good view of the Lloyd Place there across the grassy bowl, and you can see the Legislative Building dome beside it there. And this is the backside of the T.C. Douglas building, which again, I really like the architecture. I think it's really ties in with the prairie very nicely. The windows pick up the sky, have the long flat lines and the trees, bushes. So at the return walk, I'll just walk down Albert, I think, which I don't do very often. Maybe on the other side where the houses are. There's some nice houses over there to look at. Some art here too, this being the Mckenzie Art Gallery. There's some outdoor sculptures along here. And more in the front. I guess they have plaques. I've never really looked. Let's see what this one says. It's called Mishimi's Walk, 1990. There it is. If you want to read it, I won't bother reading it out loud, but I'll put it there if anybody wants to pause at this point. These are probably all by the same artist. Don Folks, I think his name was. Now, I'll have to go down to the next light in order to get a crosswalk. But we'll get over to Albert Street here. All the cars going by. Most of the frost is disappearing, but there's another one of those steel sculptures I've never particularly noticed before. There's still frost in the shade. There might still be, but as the temperature goes up, it'll be disappearing everywhere, even in the shade. And I found some slipperiness here and there. I guess this is a crosswalk, but I think I'll walk down to the light rather than... Oh, well, maybe it's okay. So some lovely houses along South Albert here. This was like the premier address when the city was young. It was along here. And many of the movers and shakers of early Regina had houses along here. These lovely old, good-sized ones. That one hides behind a wall, which is probably why that was built, primarily. Oh. It's a little bit of color. So that one's driveway here. One I like a lot. I'm sure a lot of these hedges were built to keep traffic noise at abeyance. Regina moose jaw, but I can't remember the details without having the book with me. But I'd say most of these are in there. You get the red of the hedge in front of it. Might make my thumbnail for the day, we'll see. Big one over there. Is this the one they were going to do something awful with and it got saved? I can't remember. So I shouldn't say. Pretend I didn't say that. Somewhat more modern one here. Smaller modern one. Very modern one there too. And another smaller one there. It's a nice one. I got a momentary unstable internet warning there. Oof, wouldn't expect that along Albert. That oof was, the sidewalk was heaved up there, and of course I'm never looking at my feet when I do this. Refurbished at some point. I've written a book about this historic houses. I like the awnings on this one. Kind of colorful. Red awnings and purple shutters and the white stucco. Very small amount of Halloweening going on here. Right at this one, another interesting one. Red door always stands out. Oh yeah, there's a giant spider on that one, so there's some Halloweening. But neat and nice looking. I like the half timbered look. That sort of fake Elizabethan thing. Spit that out there, will it? Interesting design. They're definitely not cookie cutter along here. Most of them were designed by architects of the time. Some of them might have been built from patterns. Well, our architects in town, like Story and Van Egmond, sort of the major architects of the time, certainly had a pattern book that you could look at designs and choose your house from. One of the few brick houses, I don't know. It says McCallum Avenue. which is a very broad one that also has very nice houses along it. Hill McCallum were major real estate developers of the day and builders. But it's a big one too. View of it anywhere. Oh, maybe here. So brick. Of course, big trees along here too. They have this huge spruce in front of this one. And there it is. Path. Another really nice one here. Is in their front yard. Another brick because of the trees. Driving, you really don't. This was the brick one I was in, not the one back there. Okay. Two brick ones side by side. The feeling it was. Probably don't even need to push that, but I will. Just in case there's a left turn signal. There's not. The big one on this corner. They're either pruning or taking down a tree. I would guess they're taking down the whole tree. Back there on that house. That looked like more than just a prune. It's always sad to see a tree come down around here. They were all planted by somebody. None of them grew here naturally. Corner. All right, so now we're back to the bridge. The bridge, though. A little late for that, isn't it? Maybe it's coming back from school. Oof. Oh, perfect. I hit the light without even pressing the button. Regina Avenue, which I've walked down many times. So you do this little bit on this side of the railing, and then it takes you onto the main part of the bridge. Albert Street Bridge with its lovely terracotta balustrade and these lamps, also lovely. And the flagpoles, which are currently just showing Canadian flags. They change over the course of the year depending on what's being recognized. Rotary Park down there. I can either go, if I go that way, I go quite a ways out of my way to get across the creek. So I think I'll just cross the bridge here today. As you can see, it all lit up in the sun. And the little bison medallions here, bison heads. And of course, eventually, you get to the part of the bridge that actually crosses water, which is not very much. So here you can look out down the creek. In my book, Shards of Excalibur, Twist of the Blade, Wally Knight, well, all of them, he lives here. Basically in that house, but it's not really that house, but it's in that location on Harrington Mews. His house has a swimming pool in it because I had to have him have a swimming pool. There's the lake. But it backed onto the creek, more or less, as this one does. A couple of them there, but it's really not this one, but that one is where his house would be in Shards of Excalibur, which is one of the books I'm working to hopefully kind of relaunch and maybe scare up some more readers for very shortly. I'm watching videos about how to do things better as an indie publisher, because I put out a lot of books, but I can't say that my sales have been impressive. And I would very much like to be one of those indie writers, publishers, whom I know exist, who make it a quite decent living just from doing that. I would love to be one of those, but I'm not one of those yet. My plan is to be an overnight success any day now. I'm 62. It's about time I was an overnight success. I mean, it's been a long night. I can't really complain. I've been a full-time writer for, what? Coming up on 30 years. It'll be 30 years in a couple of years, so 28, I guess. And most freelance writers never get to that point. So, you know, I can't really complain. Well, I can, because I'd rather be, you know, incredibly rich and famous. But a famous writer, not a famous actor. Because famous writers, nobody knows what they look like for the most part. So they don't notice you. Famous actors have to deal with being recognized everywhere. And who'd want that? I wouldn't be able to do this if people recognize me everywhere. I get recognized often enough as it is. In Regina, nowhere else. Just a couple more blocks. How long has this been? Yeah, that's what I figured. Done that walk before, and it's almost exactly an hour, depending on how I vary it. Nobody watches an entire hour of this. I also remind myself of that because I feel like I'm repeating myself. I feel like I'm repeating myself, and yet I know that most people are only watching maybe 10 minutes, and then they're on to something else. So the odds of them hearing me repeat myself, the odds of me repeat myself, see, I didn't even repeat myself when I was trying to repeat myself, are slim. Ooh, nice red in that little bit of hedge, what's left of it. And yes, I do the same walks more than once, but they're always a bit different because the weather's different, or my precise path is a little different, or I see something new along the way. And even the guy that inspired all this, walking commuter who walks in Manhattan, he repeats himself all the time. He goes through Central Park probably every week, over the Brooklyn Bridge. Some geese. I just turned down the road that says it's closed, so I hope he knows what he's doing. Guess he just wanted to get part way. Remember to plug in my microphones. They should be getting a little on the low side. And I don't want it to quit again like it did a few days ago. Ran out of juice. That was the third day I tried to use it without charging it. Clearly that's too much. So 2 days it seems to be fine. But you can't trust it for a third day. So I will charge it fully before tomorrow's walk, wherever that may take me. I have no idea at the moment. And don't get around much anymore is still running through my head. Having school ahead of us. This house was built by the architect Francis Portnell for himself. Francis Portnell also built Davin School, and he also designed our house, which was built just about the same time as the school was. Ours was built in 26 and will be 100 years old in 5 years. That's it for now. Thanks for walking with me. I'll be back tomorrow. Goodbye.